Speaker is Ernest, and he's from the D.C. area. Let's thank Ernest for sharing. Let's give him a round of applause.
Ernest.
True. Ernest and Addie. Excuse me. First, I have to say that I'm humbled and grateful for being a part of this convention. I've been coming down here for quite some time. My clean date is February 23rd, 1992. And I started coming down, I believe it was, the first one was in 95. Didn't know much about NA. I got introduced to Narcotics Anonymous through treatment facility. But first, let me say this. I didn't plan to stay. I was trying to save a job, and part of my story, really where I identified was why are we here? I thought drugs I had found, I thought that was it, and it talks about that in that reading, but I put using ahead of the welfare of my mother, my father, my wife at the time, my daughters, and put my daughters in harm's way quite a bit because I would keep them, let them stay in the car, run in the cop, and they'd be in the car, and my oldest, she would be in the babysit. And I think about that these days from time to time because, folks snatching children, you know what I mean? And but that was my irresponsibility, and I'm grateful for this program because I would still be doing that sort of thing. Chasing a feeling is what I'm talking about, because that first feeling that I got that I thought had filled that void before I even got here was a big shot of Old English 800. And when that went down, I thought I had arrived, you know what I mean? And little did I know. Because I suffered from know-it-allism, and I suffered from self-reliance, I don't need your help, but when I connect the dots, I look at my growing up, had a lot to do with it. I grew up in a household, mother and father, who didn't drink or drug, and 3 older sisters. So one of the first things that I was able to, through step work, realize is that I wanted to be outside that home. I had a doting mother. I didn't want to be looked at as a mama's boy, And so I went outside and I lived next to a bootlegger. So I saw the hustlers coming back and forth and bringing women back and forth. So I've always, again, connecting the dots and through step work, always looked for something outside of myself. When I know the Creator gave me everything that I need that's right here inside of me, if I allow it, And so I was told early on to give yourself a chance. And I was also told, look into what you, in terms of recovery, what you're getting into. Read the literature. I was told to go to 1, 2, and 3 step meetings early on, and I did, And but through the traditions, I was introduced through the traditions through H&I, hospitals and institutions. And I didn't know anything about that. And my experience was the brother that got me into treatment, because I went through treatment trying to save that job through the EAP, was the Employee Assistance Program. You know, again, my motive, because of my using, my motive was not necessarily to stay clean. My motive was to keep that good job, paid good money, so that I could keep using. So keeping that job meant a lot to me. So the conditions were, go to this program, go to treatment. And I did. And I told the brother, you know, I just need to get back to, you know, something, I said. He said, no, you need to let all that go, unlearn all that shit, you know. And what he was talking about, all that stuff that I had learned out in the street. And so he was part of a program down at, for some of you know, Lawton. He was running a drug program down at Lawton. And he asked me to come down there and share. Mind you, I only had about 2, maybe 3 years at the time. I think it was just around 2 years. And I was like, you know, because I'm always in the background. I don't like being out front, low self-esteem. And, but I went anyway, because at that time I was buying into the program. I was feeling the love from the fellowship and my sponsor, and he had said, you know, it's the program, not your program, because your program got you a seat here, you know. So I said, okay. And but when I went there, nervous and all of that, I shared what I could. I don't know if it was a clear message or not, you know. But what I learned, what they did, he told me to go to H&I. You'll get some help there, you know. And I did. And when I did, they accepted me. We put through H&I, we put that on H&I roster, and that's where I met my second sponsor. Because my first sponsor, I followed because in the treatment center, it was no disrespect to this program, but it was AA and NA in 1992. In that treatment center, we went to both. And so my first sponsor, after my first year, about a year and a half after our anniversary, he told me, he said, you need to, because he was he told me, you need to find a sponsor, you need to go to NA. And I did. And been going faithfully to NA ever since. And what I found out when I was going to Lawton behind the wall, the difference was whether you're behind the wall or not, the bondage itself is still, you know, it didn't matter, you know. And I learned that from those brothers through in Lawton, you know. And so I continued to get involved in H&I. And so I had to get acquainted with and know traditions as well as the steps, because my sponsor, we did, and I got support group here, we did a bunch of step and tradition meetings, step study and tradition study. And it helped me in such a way in the sixth tradition, which I think about, you know, is diverting that diversion from our primary purpose. And in the fifth tradition, you know, it tells us what is our primary purpose. It's to carry the message to the still suffering addict. You know, and in doing so, I had to practice what I was learning, a part of, and to understand what I was a part of. You know, and so there's a lot of diversions that we could find. You know, and for me, like I said, my thing a lot was what is my motive? I've always had to ask myself, what is my motive? You know, and part of that was the money deal. You know, and currently I'm a part of. Let me just look at my time too. I'm a part of my home group, which is 8AT Miracles, and they've been around for, I think it's 32 or 33 years, and I get a lot of help from that group, and so currently I'm the treasurer of that group, you know, and the responsibility is to report, and how I am to report. Now, being around times that I have, I've seen how quickly someone, me, can be diverted because of money or property or prestige. Prestige, I'm not, again, I sit in the back, I'm not looking to be noted. And sometimes I get feelings because my network of folks, because I'm not originally from DC, my network of folks, some who's sitting here, they just about know everybody, you know. And sometimes I get feelings because I'm not from here, and they know everyone, and it's like, you know, sometimes they don't acknowledge me, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. At one time I wasn't, you know what I mean? And so, but they'll introduce me, and it's good, and it's a small world, but I know that this is a we program, you know. I can't get distracted because of that. I'm here for the long haul because this program saved my life, you know. And so there's a responsibility that I know, that I understand with in Narcotics Anonymous, and to be able to deliver a clear message. And through H&I, because I was the chair of H&I at one time, and I forget the other part of that committee, but we'd have to go out to other facilities, right, and state what we can do, you know, the do's and don'ts, if you will. You know, I understand that's a little changing now through the world, but in any event, the do's and don'ts of what we can do. And if there's a meeting of the minds, then we can bring a meeting in to and carry the message. But if there's a conflict, and there's been conflicts, and I'm talking about my own experience through being a chairperson, where we've had to remove somebody from carrying a message in there because the message wasn't good, wasn't clear, or they were doing something that was not integrity is the word I want to use. You know, this tradition, for me, what it means for me is the integrity. Even when taking in somebody into a facility, or if I'm taking someone in the facility, you know, you need to know. They, you know, it's probably a word we don't use much, but they got to be vetted. You know, if they go into the other fellowship or any other fellowship and they bring it, they shouldn't be coming in to share a meeting as such in hospitals, institutions, or even in a group meeting, you know. And it's okay that you vet them properly, okay? And so it's like, even here, I was humbled, that low self-esteem, I was asked, I didn't send in no tapes, you know what I mean? I just, I was asked from someone who was on the program committee to come and share. He's heard me share. I go to meetings with him, you know what I mean? And so that tells me I'm giving a clear message, but it also humbles me, because I want to be able to give a clear message. I want to be able to say, because what I learned was, when coming in, you share how it was, how you got here, and how it is now, And I try to do that, and I try to do that even with these traditions. And in which is connected to the seventh tradition, self-supporting. Again, I said I was, don't need no help and self-supporting, but I've gotten better, but I struggle with financial, my financial unmanageability, to be able to carry it, but through this tradition and through us supporting ourselves. And the biggest word for me in the seventh tradition is freedom. To be able to go into a facility, to be able to carry our own weight. No, we don't want, because some facilities will say, hey, look, y'all just come on in. Y'all don't have to give it. No, we want to pay our way. We want to give, whether it's money, whether it's books, and even where that's concerned, where money is, because in my home group, and I'm not saying anything that I haven't already told them, since we're virtual now, they need to step up to the plate and make contributions, make a donation, But money and donation is not the only thing. Your time, that irreplaceable thing, to be able to be in service and have time to, particularly if you back in person, is to be able to come in, and that's what I learned, to be able to come in and set up chairs, help with the coffee, all those things. That's not, for me, it was that ego deflating thing, be humble, be able to greet somebody or newcomer at the door, welcome them, and be loving and kind. Because, again, it's about giving it away, what was so freely given to me. The program, Narcotics Anonymous, is the best thing going. And it's free, you know what I mean? And to step up. Like Darlene, she said she came in, she was recruited just now, she stepped up, just on the spare, right here and there, So, if I'm able to serve, if I'm able to give a clear message, if I'm able to stay or not be diverted, because diversion, part of once I first got here, lust was a big thing, a big butt and a smile, I'm gone, you know what I mean? But because of that, and because I've done some work on myself, I don't go to dances anymore. Because dances, and before getting here, dances was about going to a dance and trying to take somebody home. You know what I mean? That sort of behavior is not good for my own spirit, And so I pray and meditate for those shortcomings and where I need to be in my life. Am I perfect? As we were talking about earlier before the meeting started, do I lie? and Dwight asked, my sponsee said, no, I don't know. And Dwight said, well, let me see. And he asked me, and I hesitated. And I had to say, yeah, I lied, It ain't no big lies, but I know even if I lie, I know I need to go back. I need to straighten out what I lied about. You know what I mean? And that's part of what this program, a big part of what this program, and what I was talking about, integrity, being honest, and the willingness to do that. Our sponsor, who's no longer here, said, the willingness to do gives you the ability to do. And we all have a responsibility to in Narcotics Anonymous, and not to be, because we've seen it. Well, some of you've seen it, where we about hustling. We see folks, which has occurred, selling things out the trunk, in facilities, that ain't how much time I got. 5 minutes. In the facilities, that can cause us to, get removed from a facility because we're doing things that's not appropriate behavior. I'm not a spokesman for Narcotics Anonymous, but I have a responsibility to behave in a manner such that I'm not going to harm Narcotics Anonymous, you know, and what the people who are part of Narcotics Anonymous, because it's a life-saving program, you know. As my man Val always says, you know, the program works. And it works for me if I'm open to it. You know, I one of the things, part of the meditations that I use is it's a prayer, you know, that God gives us two things. His spirit and the freedom of choice. And what am I going to do with it? You know what I mean? If I'm open to it and I allow him to be part of my life and I have a relationship with the God of my understanding, I give myself a chance. You know what I mean? I give myself a chance to not only live a quality life, but to help another human being. So, and out of that, like I was saying to one of the first services that I did when I was going down to the jail at Lawton, was the C brothers come out of there and approach me and say, I remember you from coming down to Lawton, you know. And it's a matter of selfless service, you know, and to be able to do what it is that I'm asked to do, whether, you know, so I stay in service, right? Currently now I'm the RCM for Chesapeake and Potomac region, and business meetings at my home group, meetings at the regional level. There's a lot of things that go on and disagreements, but it's a we program. You know, we have to stay together such that we can grow together one day at a time. So my time, I don't know if I shared enough that anybody can identify with anything, but I love to be a part of service, be a part of Narcotics Anonymous, and in this region, which has saved my life, and the help that I get is immeasurable. You know, sometimes I can't articulate what it is that I get from living the program one day at a time. So again, my name is Ernest J, and I'll keep coming back one day at a time.